A guy obsessed with social media will do whatever it takes to go viral, even if it puts other people's lives at risk. So today remember, if you like the videos, you can support the channel by liking it, by subscribing and turning on notifications. It's free and really help me keep growing. Now if we start this list, a guy named Cord who has the dream of becoming an influencer and be known in his social networks, called World of 496, in which he uploads videos or varied content hoping that some of them make him famous. In some of his publications he is told that he was born in Los Angeles, but since he was a child he lives in a small town. And we also see that his videos are based on everyday and funny things. From his life he is currently a driver in a travel platform called Spring Cab Service through an app, and as he interacts with many people he decided to condition his car with cameras to record his videos while he works. Then we learned that Cord has 10 years creating content for the web without having obtained any recognition, which at some point led him to get depressed because he felt he was not finding himself until he came up with an idea he called The Lesson, which he carried out on April 12, 2009, the same day that With finally went viral. That day we see him driving his car while talking the cameras around him to present the lesson while he prepares himself talking bottles of water that have a special preparation. Remember he commented in a video posted in the previous week. The day starts with his first trip for a man named Frederick, who upon noticing the amount of cameras in the car begins to ask him what's going on, but Word simply tells him that he uses them for protection. The guy offers him a bottle of water, but Frederick refuses and asks him for a borrowed charger, so our influencer tells him about a life he makes while driving. To teach his followers about how to handle social networks there, the man begins to interact with him making racist comments that make no sense, and that catches the attention of Bobby, who is the only viewer of the court broadcast at that moment. Later, Frederick agrees to drink the water while Short sees the volume to the music and tries to get him conversation, but his passenger begins to cough uncontrollably, wondering what kind of water he has drunk. At that we see the video from the previous week, where our trusted influencers inject the water bottle with a strange liquid. And in the present, we see that Frederick tries to get out of the car, but with the blow until he faints. We don't know how much time passed, but now, he is about to pick up the next passenger, and at that moment, we meet Andrea, who asks him to keep an ad in the trunk, and then she gets in the car distracted because she is having an argument through the phone. Without saying anything to the woman, she takes one of the bottles of water and starts to drink it. So soon after we see her passed out next to Cord, who tells her that just like he did with Frederick, to check Andrea's phone to rate himself and give himself a $2 tip for his excellent service. He also starts answering her messages as the camera says that will help deflect suspicions. Back to work, Court meets a new passenger named Closet who is more bitter than the others and refuses to keep the conversation going because he is not interested in anything I can tell him at that moment, polite and to accept the request of another passenger. And when the man finds out, he starts arguing with him, but he has no choice but to accept because he has paid the lower fare. Accept the request of another passenger, and when the man finds out, he starts to argue with him, but she has no choice but to accept because she has paid the lowest fare. When they arrive for her, the girl does not refuse at first, but the man insists that she convince her to get in the car, and she succeeds in doing so when he offers her the service for free. Because she tells him that she doesn't only work for the money. So we officially meet Jesse, who happens to be a famous comedian with a lot of followers on social networks. So Mario starts recording her making her angry, and Court threatens to get him out of the car if she doesn't stop, but everything gets even more out of control when she starts recording Mario to tell her followers that she is bothering him, and the man responds with an insult to me. Tell his followers that oh bothering, and the man responds with an insult to me. In the middle of the unpleasant situation, the girl ends up getting out of the car and took a bottle of water to wet Mario and then throw it further ahead. Then, by took a shortcut while the man discovers that Jesse published his video and there begins to feel bad. So he stops at one point so he can throw up, but when Mario gets out of the car, our trusted influencers decide to reverse full speed to run him over and then run him over again just for fun. That night, Cord starts is by setting up Jesse's account and preparing the car lighting to move on, but he guantes to a gas station to get gas. As we speak, his only spectator Bobby is an influencer with a lot of followers and complains put by the boring content he is making and tells him he will give him the last chance to improve so he can help him make himself look. The next passengers are 3 tourists looking for some fun, end up killing them while he takes care of another woman using one of his drills, Hugo. Then more self-washing already, and Bobby tells him that no one saw his transmission and so his content doesn't matter, so he recommends him to watch Jesse's content to learn how to behave as a real influencer, and in doing so, what seems unfair to him that he already has so many followers when he makes much more interesting content by sending people live. So he goes to Bobby's house while he is also in the middle of a broadcast to ask them for help, but he tells him that he is not his collaborator and asks him to leave. Court doesn't listen to him, and so his only viewer starts to focus on him with his camera to tell his followers that he is a guy with lack of attention. Out of nowhere he cuts him with a knife to stab him in the middle of both transmissions, and to defend himself he comes back and pulls out a gun, but our trusted influencer throws himself on him to start a struggle that ends with several shots. Then he saves the dead guy on the floor with your camera, making his views start to increase, and after a while he goes to Bobby's bathroom to take a shower. While he continues the transmission with more than 100 viewers, also uses the boy's computer to make a transmission in his account and dresses clothes, but in that he receives a message from his father who asks him to take him a fur with a famous DJ that he does not know. Although he ends up agreeing since his new followers convince him to go on the way, he discusses with his father about his family problems and about the gun they cut in the car, but Mr. Ray gives him a lot of importance, and when he arrives at the event with health to the famous Diaz and hoping that she will help him to be famous, and when he asks her to tag him in one of her stories she tells him and ignores him, so he decides to leave. But before starting the car the woman comes to ask him to take her a truckload of drinks in exchange for tagging him in a publication. When he arrives he cuts a long photo session. And then, he offers to buy her some food even though there is a long line at the stand while the villa waits, and walks around the car to check it completely until he gets our influencer's gun, and the first thing he does is take pictures with her. Then he took some special water that makes her cough, and when X gets back to the car you find her passed out. And if that wasn't enough, 2 policemen arrive and from far away they notice a strange situation, so they decide to approach to investigate. The officers ask him for his court documents, pretend that the villa and passed out is his drunk girlfriend. There they force him to get out of the car to do the breathalyzer test. Out of nowhere, the woman wakes up scared and out of control, because the first thing she does is shoot the gun to kill one of the policemen. Everyone runs out including the other policeman who starts chasing the girl and who is escaping, making Court stay alone in Kika, then escape in his car while he is being chased by some police cars. So he decides to drive on the highway in the opposite direction and continue the transmission of the election in the middle of the emotion for everything that is happening. So they manage to lose the patrols when they arrive to a neighborhood full of homeless people, so he feels unstoppable while he runs over more people, and at that moment he loses control of the car so he ends up overturned. Then we go to Jesse's house, and while he is doing his routine we learn that Court is in the car. While she does her routine we learn that Court has survived and is in the same place as her doing another broadcast with more than 30,000 viewers, to whom she shows the gun she has in her hand, and she starts to tell about her experience with the Court trip to make jokes about her need for attention, but she also confesses that at some point she had been in the same place as her to make jokes about her need for attention. She confesses that at some point she lived the same, and that's why she has decided to leave the social networks for a while. When she hears this, Core runs out, and when she leaves she sees a tweet from the CEO of the travel app where he announces that the company cancels its service in Los Angeles due to the events that happened in the last hours, and that's why she decides to use another travel app. Then a gentleman looks for him, and when he gets in the car he continues with his like while his viewers ask him to do something funny, but he simply talks to the gentleman about the security camera he has on the dashboard, and the driver jokes with him, telling him that he is not the crazy guy that is walking around. A while later 10 and took a cab of the same company without realizing the driver's one is cut in the car of the gentleman who picked him up recently. He tells her that he loved her presentation and that he is glad she didn't drink the special water this afternoon. At first the comedian doesn't understand, but before long she recognizes him, and it all gets weirder when he tells her that he had a breakthrough in his life thanks to her show, and proposes him to unite his audiences, making a video not for then, and that beginning gets scared when he discovers that Core is taking her house, but she manages to hang him with the cell phone charger, although the seconds he manages to have her with a strong blow that makes her faint. When she arrives at her mother's house, Core published a poll for his followers to decide what he should do with Jesse. At this point his transmission has more than 50,000 viewers, and when they see results from the public they prepare to pass the car over the girl, but when he looks in front and has disappeared, so he gets out of the car to investigate. We know that Jesse has gotten in the car to kill him in the first attempt. He doesn't succeed, and that's why he starts chasing him until he ends up going through one of the walls of the house, To investigate, we know that Jesse has gotten into the car to kill him on the first attempt. He does not succeed, and that is why he starts chasing him until he ends up going through one of the walls of the house, and although he starts hurting her she manages to hit him, but in the end he runs away. Then Jesse gets out of the car and meets Court's father, who starts to blame her for destroying the house, but right there they find the body of Court's mother lying on the floor, and they start to believe that she is also guilty of that. While they are arguing her son appears with a gun in his hand, and he knows he stops her. Behind him, he starts shooting him in the back, then some flashbacks confirm that the first person our trusted influencer killed was his mother, and he did it before leaving for work. After that he goes back to the car, while Court continues shooting his father and takes advantage of that distraction to start the car, but when he tries to escape in reverse the car won't start. So he decides to run him over until he ends up crushing him against the wall. The transmission has 55,000 viewers, and we see that died, so the followers ask Jesse to get closer to him to see him better, and by doing so our influencer wakes up with the intention of attacking her, but she starts to hit him with a cell phone until now she manages to kill him. The scene ends when the comedian takes a picture with Court's corpse to please the viewers, and thanks to this, and that she becomes even more famous, because she becomes a reference of fight for her part of Short Big Look for everything she did, and also gained a lot of followers in various blogs that are now obsessed with him and his story. This was Sprint. Don't forget to like or comment on what other movies you want to see on the channel.